If you're looking for strategies and tips to optimize a low-carb lifestyle, I encourage you to watch this video. I'm going to leave you 10 of my top tips for starting and sustaining a successful low-carb lifestyle overall. And stay tuned to the end because I'm going to give you 2 bonus tips that I think will really add value to you. So here you are. You're in the probably space where a lot of us are, where we hear terms like low carb and keto and getting out the grains and moving in the fats and the proteins. And you may have thought, gosh, what is this latest fad that's going on? But in truth, low carb eating has been around for a very, very long time, centuries in fact. It's not a fad. It's not something that's just now happening. It's not common in the US that we would go low carb as a population, as a country, but it's very common in other countries. It's very common in cultures where people sometimes don't have access to food. So just know that this style of eating has been around a long time. Like any style of eating, there's healthy ways to do it, and then there's of course unhealthy ways. And for today, we're going to focus on the top 10 tips that keep you in a healthy state when you want to maintain a low carb balance in your life. So here we go. Tip number 1, hydration. It is so important when you are starting a low carb style of eating that you are hydrating properly and that you're giving your body enough liquid during the day. It's a transition for your body to go from burning mainly starch to looking at burning fat and protein. That's just a big switch for you. And so I would encourage you to go out and get something fun to drink from. I have water bottles all over my house, and sometimes I prefer the ones that have color, and I have a hot pink one I enjoy, or the ones that have inspirational words on them. Some of my water bottles have measurements on them, and that helps me keep track of how much I've drank during the day. But just find something out there that you enjoy drinking from and start drinking. I encourage my clients usually to start with 2 liters of water a day. For some people you need less, some you need more, but kind of a good rule of thumb is just to start with a couple liters a day and then go more if you need to. Tip number 2. If you are one who is 100% committed to starting low carb, full out every single meal, I encourage you to go for it. But for those of you who are just tiptoeing in the water, just trying to figure out what this lifestyle could look like for you and your family, I encourage you to upgrade one meal first. If you are a breakfast person, that can be a great way to start. I would encourage you to maybe look at a few solid options. For instance, instead of having cereal or oatmeal, maybe upgrade that to eggs and avocado. Instead of having a bagel, maybe have a low-carb tortilla. Just finding different ways that are a little bit more low-carb in nature. You can always Google recipes. There's a ton out there. Find 2 or 3. No more than that, because you want to keep it simple for yourself right now. You're just starting off. And as you're creating consistency with one meal, your confidence will grow so that you can look at meal 2 or 3 or 4, however meals you're doing in your day, and build confidence that you can do lower carb options. You can eat in this style and feel great, but I'd encourage you to go with one meal first. Tip number 3, prioritize protein, fat, and fiber. I always tease my clients that I'm not going to tell them carbohydrates because 1, you're trying to go low carb, but every time I say carbs, people run with that and they say, oh great, I can go pizza and bread and bagels again. And really what I'm saying with that is find fibrous foods that are not starches. Find vegetables, low carb fruits, find nuts and seeds and avocados and lots of food that has fiber in it that'll help keep you satiated during the day and help your digestive system moving. So the top 3 things are a source of protein, a source of healthy fat, and fiber in every single meal. Tip number 4, consider the frequency of your meals. When you decide to transition to a low carb style of eating, sometimes you're going to find you are more satiated off of the protein and the fat that you're eating. And sometimes when people are first starting off, they actually have to eat more often to create buy-in for themselves that they can eat this style of eating. So I would encourage you to do what is feeling right for your body. If you are one that does not enjoy breakfast, you might want to skip breakfast and wait until lunch to eat. If you are a breakfast person and really enjoy that, have your breakfast. Some people are real big into intermittent fasting. There's a tremendous amount of health benefits to that. But as you're transitioning into a low carb style of eating, unless you're really going incredibly low carb, like in a ketogenic style of eating, where intermittent fasting can play a huge role in that and seeing benefits with that. If you're really just trying to lower your carbs from standard American diet, I would encourage you to do what you did before, just with lower carb options. So if that means before you were doing 3 meals and 2 snacks, maybe do that, but in a lower carb version. And as you move through this lifestyle, you will learn how to intuitively eat for your body so that you can maybe go down in meal frequency and not have as many. But when you're first starting off, try not to put that pressure on yourself to be perfect, and try not to mistake perfect for doing better with every meal and every decision you're making with this. The goal is to have forward progress, not to have perfection. Tip number 5. Develop patience. Now, this goes right along with what I was just saying, but remember that it may have taken you years to get to where you are. And so it's important that you develop realistic expectations in the changes that you want to see in your body, in your mind, overall health. If body composition and changing your body composition or losing fat is your main goal, again, develop some patience with yourself. Sometimes that happens really quickly on low carb eating styles, and sometimes it actually doesn't. Sometimes the things that happen first are changes in your mental state. It's feeling clearer, it's feeling fuller in your belly, it's feeling more energetic, your sleep improves, all these awesome benefits that sometimes people don't focus on when they're initially going low carb. So I would encourage you to look at big picture right now and realize that the changes will happen for you. If you're persistent and consistent, they will. But it also doesn't mean you have to go to fast pace either. Tip number 6, add in some form of physical activity or movement daily. I intentionally try not to use the word exercise. And the reason for that is that exercise for a lot of people holds negative connotation. And so words that I often hear are, I have to go to the gym. I have to have an hour to work out. You know, really, you don't. You don't have to have an hour to work out. If you're not working out consistently at all, it may be that you add in a 15-minute walk to your daily habit. It may mean that you go out and play with your kids in the park. It may mean that you just do some jumping jacks and push-ups in your bedroom. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be long. And within that, I would encourage you to develop speech of, I can do this. I can get out and develop some physical activity. I can add in more movement to my day. I can use my standing desk instead of my sitting desk when I'm at work. I can take the stairs instead of the elevator. These are things that will move you forward in the direction that you're wanting to go health-wise, but it doesn't mean that you have to go to the gym. If you enjoy the gym, awesome, go. That's amazing, go for it. But if you don't, and you really are trying to just create movement in your day, I would start with small ways, 10, 15 minutes. Tip number 7. Consider doing a tracking of what we call macros or your overall nutrition. There's lots of apps out there. There's Carb Manager that I have used. There's MyFitnessPal. There's a lot of apps out there that'll help you see, okay, really how many carbohydrates am I eating a day? If your goal is to go lower carb and kind of increase your protein and increase your fat, those can be great ways to do that. And within that, I would also start paying attention to labels. Typically when people go low carb, the first thing they notice is how sugar is in everything. It's amazing. It's in packaged, condiments. It's in sometimes mac and cheese and dairy products and things that you wouldn't necessarily think would have a ton of sugar, but there's sugar everywhere. And so people's eyes tend to be opened when they decide to eat lower carb eating style. And so tracking might be a great way to help you actually keep track of what you're taking in. It also is a great way to see, okay, what are my patterns of eating? What are my portions like? Am I going out of control at night because I haven't fed myself enough during the day? Or are my portions, pretty reasonable throughout the day? So patterns, portions, and then habits. What are my habits? Do I tend to eat when I'm stressed? I tend to eat when my kids have gone to bed and I just want an extra snack while I'm watching Netflix. Whatever it is for you, I would just encourage that if you are a tracker or think that would be helpful, to consider doing that. Tip number 8. This is so important. Getting adequate sleep. you gotta prioritize that sleep. We are all busy running around. I live in the Bay Area, and people are just trying to do everything all at one time. And the problem with that is the area that we tend to not get enough of is sleep. The unfortunate thing is when you're trying a different eating style, sleep is when your hormones get reset. Your appetite, your two main appetite hormones get reset when you sleep. And so when you don't get adequate sleep, you may notice the next day you are craving sugars and salts and foods that you're trying to stay away from, with the carbohydrates of the starches and things of that nature. And so really prioritize sleep and understand why you need to prioritize sleep, because it's going to make switching into this lifestyle so much simpler when you are well rested. Tip number 9. Why are you doing this? What is your motivation for doing this? I always say your reason why for creating change has to resonate more deeply with you than the actual change you create. Otherwise, you go right back into old habits. It could be something that is more external. It could be something that is more intrinsic of nature, like you want to develop, better health, or you want to do this to be a better parent. But it could also be something like, I want to fit in a new pair of jeans. I would just encourage you not to judge yourself for what means the most to you, but to write it down, to maybe create a vision board of pictures of what you're wanting to look like or feel like or be like with this lifestyle. If it means that you develop a gratitude journal and write down what you're grateful for every single day to help you stay motivated, I would encourage you to do that. But I would really find the motivation, the reason why you are changing your lifestyle at this point. And tip number 10, develop a support system. If it is one person that you can go to, a real face-to-face person that you can go to, grab onto that person, explain to them what you're wanting to do, and help them understand how they can help you with that. If it's helping you stay accountable, if it's checking in on you weekly to see how you're doing, I would encourage you to develop at least that minimal support system of one person. If you are blessed to have a group of people around you, whether it's online, through the phone, via the internet, however it is, and you have a group that can help hold you accountable, go for that as well. There's Facebook groups. There are other YouTube channels. There's lots of ways you can get plugged in, but I would just encourage you to find a support system so that you can not only hold yourself accountable, but you have other people who are also speaking to you about your own goals and the things that you set up for what you want to do. And here are your 2 bonus tips. One is consider some supplements that you may want to add into the mix. Now, some people feel really strongly about supplements. People have very strong opinions about this, but I will tell you, unless you're a person who has a perfect style of eating, supplements could be a good thing to consider. And when you're going low carb, the biggest things that I usually talk to my clients about are things like considering a multivitamin. For most of us, a multivitamin probably would be a good thing to add in, just considering our soil and the way things are grown, at least in the US. We don't always get the nutrients, the phytonutrients that we need that are in certain vitamins. So that's one thing that you might want to consider. The second thing is some magnesium. Oftentimes, particularly women, are low in magnesium, and so you may want to look at adding in a magnesium supplement. Another common one is vitamin D. If you haven't had your vitamin D levels checked, a lot of people up in my area are very low and they don't even know it. A lot of times when people are low in vitamin D, it impacts their mood, it impacts their energy, it impacts their ability to lose belly fat. So those are things you also might want to check out. The fourth thing I would say too is if you are going low carb and are wanting to figure out how do I sustain that and get the benefits of increased energy and focus and sleep and concentration, you may want to look into exogenous therapeutic ketones. That's something that my husband and I started doing, and it has been a game changer for us. And so if you want more information about that, let me know. I can always connect you with people who could talk with you about that. And the last thing is electrolytes. I would really encourage, especially if you're going low carb or doing a ketogenic style of eating, that you get your electrolytes in daily, because you're going to lose those pretty quickly when you go to something more like ketogenic. And the last tip that I can tell you, and this is something we're going to have probably a video series on moving forward, is what is your self-talk? How are you talking to yourself about this journey that you are going on right now? Are you telling yourself words like, I don't get to have, I can't have, it's a bummer because it's cutting these foods out? Or are you saying things like, I get to have. I get to have more healthy fat. I get to have more lean protein or sustainable protein. I get to have fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds. Look at what your self-talk is about, because a lot of times your self-talk determines what your results will be. So with that, everyone, I would just encourage you that if you haven't hit subscribe to this channel, we're a brand new channel. So if you're interested in learning different ways to up your game, to pursue excellence in different areas of your life, and just to develop yourself so that you can be at your best every day, I would just encourage you to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. Hope you have a great rest of your day.